city of Jerusalem. These walls you see here are about 500 years old, built to protect the city. We're going to walk into the city. There are four quarters to the city. There's the Armenian quarter, the Muslim quarter, the Christian quarter, and the Jewish quarter. Of course, in the Jewish quarter is where we find the Western Wall, the Kotel. Right behind me is what they call the Tower of David, and it's very powerful. If you scan to my right, your left, you'll see here Jaffa Gate. Why is it called Jaffa Gate? Is because this road goes all the way to the sea, to the city of Jaffa, or Jaffa. You can see the 40 sign, which is not for our 40th anniversary, but rather for the 40th anniversary of the Six-Day War, which happened in 1967. This wall is from the First Temple period. The Wailing Wall, the Western Wall, is from the Second Temple period. So this is 2,500 years old. That first temple was destroyed in the year 586 BCE, and then the Babylonian exile happened. But this wall right here is from the First Temple period. Rabbi Steinberg, you ask a great question. Right over here you can see the Dome of the Rock. That is one of the holiest sites in all of Islam. It's where Muhammad rose as the prophet. But it's also a very holy site for Jews because we're taught that that's Mount Moriah. That's where the son of Abraham, Isaac, was to be sacrificed. It's also where the ancient temples were built. The first temple destroyed in 586 BCE, and the second temple destroyed in 70 CE. It is wrought with problems, to be sure, but it is such a holy place. Over here, if you'll spin the camera over this way, is the Christian quarter, where the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is found, where Jesus is to be buried. And you can see in these many quarters here, the Armenian quarter, the Christian quarter, the Jewish quarter, and the Muslim quarter, we have nothing but difficulty, and yet, at the same time, they're trying to figure out ways to coexist. So that golden dome is actually called Kippah HaZahav. That is kippah, a covering that is gold. Even in its name, in Hebrew, it has a sense of holiness, even though it is an Islamic site. We're standing on the rooftop here of the Arab quarter, and you see these satellite dishes on all of these Arab Muslim homes. Why, you ask? Because they do not want to get television from Israeli television. They want to tap into the satellites to get Al Jazeera. Well, we're finally here at the holiest site in all of Judaism, the Western Wall, known also as the Wailing Wall or the Kotel. It is an amazing site because it really represents one of the oldest, holiest places in Judaism. That is, it was the retaining wall of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, destroyed in 70 CE. On top of that was the Temple Mount. This held the people write notes and put it in there because they feel they get closer to God in this sense. For us, it represents history, it represents continuity, and it represents the goodness of all of Jewish life.
What's your last name?
Steinberg. Yes, I give it out here. I only have 100 shekels. You don't have to take this fruit.
Okay, so we're looking again at the street, downtown Jerusalem. Downtown Jerusalem from 2,000 years ago. Hey, glad you asked that question.
I'm just trying to help.
What does it say? Well, it says as follows. V'raitem v'sas libchem, and if you see this, your heart shall rejoice. Vatzmotam, and their bones kedesha like grass, and there's a word missing. But we know what the word missing is. And their bones like grass will flourish, or shall flourish. So how do we know what the missing word is on graffiti from 7 What is he saying? If you see this, you should rejoice. Why? Because look, those stones are destruction. The chapter ends really badly. Temple's destroyed. But we're still here. That's the phrase. We're still here. And if you see this, you should rejoice, because despite everything...
This is what the ancient menorah looked like in the Holy Temple. Rabbi Steinberg, thank you so much for asking. Actually, we're at an ancient biblical reserve. And here, we're finding all the plants that grew in the Bible and in the Talmud. It's funny, it's a nature reserve, but it's actually artificially planted here, but to reenact and to regrow those plants and animals that were in the Bible and in the Talmud. And so here, we have olives, we have almonds, we have honey from dates, we have all sorts of spices. You can see our group right here is making spices from some of these biblical plants. She's passing out bags now so that they can pour the spices that they have smushed and smashed so they can take it home and dip it with their pita bread. It's very, very delicious. We, as many of you may know, are going to try and build a biblical garden in our synagogue outside the parking lot area. This is an ancient olive press.
Inside.
Rich people put the olives inside with a big round bowl shape.
Here.
In here.
Workers would spin the wheel around and extract the oil. Thank you for that great question. We are actually at what's called Tel Dan. Tel Dan is the archaeological site of the biblical tribe of Dan. When Joshua came into the land, he separated it into many different areas. Each tribe had to be in charge of a certain area. This was the area that Dan, the tribe of Dan, had to be in charge of. And it's been excavated for over close to 3,000 years. Not over, but close to 3,000 years. About the year 800 BCE, before the Common Era. And my cameraman will show you some of the amazing stuff you can see. On that one rock right there, you see the rock I'm pointing? Here, I'll go point to it. This rock right here. That rock had on it writing that referred to King David and the house of David. An amazing find, because what it did is it proved that David actually existed. And the exact reference to it is in the Bible, and here we find an exact quote from the Bible. It's an amazing sort of find for archaeologists and for the veracity of our ancient text. You look over here and you see the floor of a marketplace in a house. Those are original floors from the year 800 BCE. I don't think they're linoleum or carpeted. I think they were what we call rock. And in addition to that, you see many other of the original walls here. Not all of them are exact. Some of them have been refurbished, but many of these stones are the original stones from some 3,000 years ago. Rabbi Steinberg, I know it might be tough to hear me because of the flowing river, but right where I stand, right here, right now, is where the prophet Amos came up with the words, that beautiful phrase, let justice well up like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. And you can see this mighty stream. We're still at Tel Dan, because here is where justice was meted out. The king would sit in the open air and he would say guilty or not guilty, and everyone had access to justice. Not just the rich, but the rich and the poor. And right here is a biblical concept that still affects us today. It's our hope and our prayer that we will always, always have justice for all the peoples of all the world. This, my friends, is the ancient village of Moda'in, where Judah Maccabee and his family grew up. They fought the great battle of Hanukkah. They defended the Jewish people and Jewish freedom for all of us that we celebrate today. Right there is their ancient home.
Left are Abraham's two servants. Further on is the ram whose horns are stuck in the tree. Above him is the inscription, and behold the ram. Over the ram, a hand is seen protruding from the cloud next to the inscription, lay not. The figure of Abraham is larger than the rest of the figures. In his left hand he holds Isaac, and in his right is the slaughtering knife. Finally, the altar with the tongues of flame rising from it. The central section contains the wheel of the zodiac, a common depiction in Roman Byzantine mosaic art. Inside the inner circle is Helios, the Greek sun god, riding a quadriga with 4 horses against a backdrop of a starry sky and moon. Around the wheel are the 12 signs of the zodiac. Next to each is its Hebrew name. Some of the Hebrew words are misspelled or miscopied. At the 4 corners are women's figures, which symbolize the 4 seasons. They do not match the Egyptian.
We are about to enter the synagogue of the famous rabbi who started Kabbalah in Tzfat in the 16th century. His name is the Ari. And those are abbreviation of his names. In a second we're going to enter this very, very holy synagogue that was opened especially for us today, because this is a day that traditional Jews fast. The inside of the synagogue is very ancient. It's filled with the spirits of the past and the possibility of the future.
The numerology, you know what numerology is? It says that my temple for the numerology means
This is Ashkenazi synagogue, so the service is led from the front. Right? Okay? Which way are we facing? Don't say east. Which way are we facing?
Hi, Rabbi Steinberg. Thanks again for asking such a great question. I'm standing in the old city of Jaffa. The old city of Jaffa is probably 4,000 or 5,000 years old. It's found out the Bible, the Hebrew Bible. We're looking at the modern city of Tel Aviv. DJ, why don't you get a shot of the modern city of Tel Aviv and the shoreline? Here is really the gateway to Israel, from the Mediterranean Sea into Israel proper. Tel Aviv is a very modern city, of course, but in the early days, especially of the 1900s and 20th century as well, the settlers came and they wanted to found a modern state of Israel. They didn't just want to find a religious state, they wanted to find a modern state. And so they built. This land was flat 100 years ago. Today, it is built up to a modern city. Hi friends, it's me live again. We're at the Secret Ayalon Institute. This is established in the early part of the 1900s as a kibbutz, but then in 1945 the kibbutz became a secret weapons factory so that they could gather ammunition and stockpile it for the War of Independence, which is soon to come.
This washing machine first job is to make a lot of noise. And why is that? Think about it. There are 12 machines that are working simultaneously 10 to 16 hours a day, just 8 meters underneath us. No. Okay, they are very, very noisy. Something you have to camouflage to cover this noise, and this is the first job of this washing machine. So let me demonstrate you. Okay, think about it. 10 to 16 hours a day. It has to work in order to camouflage the noise of the machines in the factory. Think over there, starting to wash the shirt. While she's washing the shirt, suddenly she heard a strange noise. 12 o'clock.
This laundry factory.
She looked back.
Secret munitions factory.
You were right. What's your name?
What's
your name?
Ivora.
Ivora? So you were right. You were the only one that was correct. Okay, and then she looked back. She sees the machine moves. Notice the machine moves. 40 people came out. She started to scream. Demons coming out from the ground. Demons are attacking me. Then 40 people came out after the second man. Of course, she was fainted. 40 people like this. Don't know what to do? What are you doing with Sarah now? What would you do?
Put her to work in the...
Okay.
Here's one of the entrances to the secret underground munitions factory. This is the oven that's separated from the wall.
The machines in the laundry room, this was just a small demonstration. The machines in the laundry room, this was just a small demonstration. The machines in the laundry room, this was just a small demonstration. The machines in the laundry room, this was just a small demonstration. This was just a small demonstration.
Come in and have a seat. You get to listen to the Declaration of Independence.
So the invitation is left on the 13th of May. 350 Jews received the invitation. The next morning, Israel was declared. Dear sir, we are honored to invite you to the ceremony of the independence of the Jewish state of Israel. It will take place Friday, the 5th day of the Hebrew month Iyar, the Jewish year Tashach, May 14, 1948, 4 p.m. Okay? Well, 16 Rothschild Boulevard, the main auditorium of the Art Museum of Tel Aviv. Now you maybe remember, it is my opinion that Israel was born in spite of the Holocaust, not because of it. And we survived. Because we showed the world the meaning of the word chutzpah. You know what chutzpah?
Yeah.
If you cannot really explain it to your kids, just tell them this. Jewish women had babies even in Auschwitz. That's what you call chutzpah.
Yitzhak Rabin was murdered right here in this very spot, and we asked why the memorial looks like this. It's because this was an earthquake in Israeli society. He came from the middle of the earth, like Adam almost, like Adam. Cain killing Abel, and the earth cried out because it was so sad, and because of this terrible and tragic event in Israeli society. It changed world politics for the last. This is the memorial for Yitzhak Rabin, the Prime Minister of Israel, who was assassinated in the mid-90s.
Let's listen to the song. From a long introduction. One of the original recordings of an army singing.
Moment. Before we make Kiddush, would anybody, I might say, like to make a toast, but what I really mean is offer a prayer as you stand here in front of Jerusalem. Anybody like to offer the thoughts of their hearts? EJ.
Well, like tonight they're making services at the temple facing here, and we're here.
Absolutely. Well said. Phil.
It was unbelievable the first time. You just can't say any more about being here the second time.
I'd like to introduce. I'm going to actually start speaking in first person for him. Okay. I'd like to introduce you to the principal of the school, It was the school at that time in May 1974.
נרצחו 22 תלמידים.
And 22 students were murdered.
כולם תלמידיי.
All of them my students.
נערתי בבקשה. להתחיל. מה שתרצה. תאמר כמה מילים.
14th of May, students were coming on a hike, on a field trip from Tzfat, asked to sleep here in the school.
אז היה קשה, היה להם רימונים על השולחנות.
The terrorists were ready, they had grenades ready.
וזרקו 3-4 רימונים בתוך הילדים פה, בתוך החדר הזה.
And they threw 3 or 4 grenades in the midst of the children in this room.
אנחנו כיסינו את הגומחות של הרימונים בשטיח, כי אנחנו לא רצינו
They've covered the markings, the holes from where the grenades went off, because they didn't want it to be that graphic.
היום הזה נשפך דם כמים, חתיכות אור גרדנו מהקירות כשאנחנו ניקינו את החדר הזה.
On this day, blood was flowing like water, and we had to peel off skin from the walls of human beings to make this place clean again.
כמובן שהייתה רק יציאה קטנה, אז
כולם
התפרצו החוצה, כולל המחבלים.
So everyone ran out this one small entrance or exit.
המחבלים נהרגו כמובן בסיטואציה הזאת.
And when the terrorists ran out, also they were killed by the army, by soldiers.
הייתה לוויה מאוד מאוד קשה בצפת, למעלה מ-20 תלמידים הלכו שם.
It was a very difficult funeral in Tzfat. More than 20 young people killed that day.
See, friends, we sit in this room where this great tragedy took place. People could, as Shalom said, wipe their hands and say, Amarnu, we're done, and walk away. We don't say that. In fact, under the leadership of Cantor Shikler and Rabbi King, at the Harbor Reform Congregation, they said, we're going to call our synagogue Shir HaMa'alot, so that these names that we read here will live on and on and on. And by the virtue of us being here today, where the skin of those children was pressed up against the wall and blood ran like water, we run like water too, with goodness and with righteousness and with justice, and we come to this land and we celebrate our Judaism in its fullness. No terrorist can take that away from us, even if they kill 24 students. We wish it were otherwise. Pray and hope every day that the work that we do and the people that we are will prevent these things from happening. But until that day, and even after that day, we must remember. But as the Torah teaches, never forget. So we as Shir HaMa'alot to take this space and this place as our mandate to never forget. Not only about the land of Israel, but about Judaism altogether. So the words of Shalom and the words of B'Tzalel, they stick within us in our heart. And everything we do represents what happens here, and vice versa. There can be no mistake about it. We are Shir HaMa'alot, and Shir HaMa'alot is us. The students of Ma'alot are us, and we are them. Wherever we go, they go. And what they represented is who we have become.
From deep within